Project number 1. Stripping down and cleaning a Bernard 10-inch 4-jaw chuck. I need this chuck for the next job on the lathe, and before I set it up I wanted to be sure the chuck was cleaned thoroughly and was in good working order, as it's been kicking around on the floor near the machine for the past few months. Just using a punch here to remove the retaining dogs for the screws. Little bit of burring on the end of these holes for the screws, so just some light filing before I could get them removed all the way. With the jaws on screws now removed, I can put the chuck body into the parts washer and clean out all the years worth of grime and grit that have worked their way into the threaded areas. Just lightly using a green Scotch-Brite bright pad to clean up the machined faces of the chuck, just to get rid of the oil residue and slight rust that's started to form on the faces. With all the parts now cleaned up and ready to be reassembled, installed the locating dogs first, only partially, and then installed the screws to each port as they are numbered. As you can see, just working my way around with the little needle file there, making sure that there's no burrs going to catch the screws when they go back in, as this chuck's had a bit of a hard life. Right then guys, we've got a quick little project here. I've been given this flywheel that is out of a rally Fiesta that a local bloke has. It's a little hobby car, and as you can see, this flywheel's had a bit of use, and there's very slight pitting that you can feel across the surface all the way around. There's a few low spots, so I'm going to go ahead and skim this flywheel. Just a very light skim cut, just to give it a nice smooth face to put his new clutch against, as he's got the gearbox off the car at the moment, and makes sense to get everything refreshed when he's doing the other parts. So the first little task before I can set to skimming this flywheel is removing these dowel pins. And to do this, I'm just using a ER40 collet here with a 6 to 7 mil collet in, and just sitting that over the dowel pin itself and clamping it tight, and then just giving a few taps on this threaded bar here to pull the pin out. So I'll get set up and get these last two pins out, and then we can move on to machining. So that's the last of those dowel pins now removed, and the flywheel is freed up and ready to get it set up on the machine. project number 3, long overdue replacement of the way wipers of my Colchester master lathe. So I've just got the wiper guards here removed from my Colchester master lathe, and as you can see, the original wiper mechanism setup has completely deteriorated and there's been nothing left on the machine to complete the wiping procedure of the ways. So I've done a bit of research online, and from what I can find, Colchester do possibly still make a wiper replacement for some of their lathes, but quite a few people that have bought them say that they don't actually fit the profile of the way properly. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut my own, and I've seen that a lot of people use felt. I have thought about using felt, as I used some thin felt on the Myford ML7 when I redid that a couple of years ago, and that's worked quite well. But for this machine I haven't got any thick felt available to hand, so what I'm going to go ahead and try is this neoprene rubber gutter sealing strip for cast guttering, which I have a few to hand, just left over from some jobs over the past few years. And as you can see, this has a bit of a profile to it, so I should be able to just use the way wiper guards to mark out the profile I need, leaving a little bit extra height so that it pokes down and actually catches the ways, because the metal guard sits up a little bit from the ways. But then I should be able to get the correct profile, and this neoprene rubber is going to work brilliantly for wiping the ways. It's not going to deteriorate from the oil through time, and it's going to hopefully work a treat for what I need. So I just thought I'd show you guys what I'm using, as I know that a lot of people seem to struggle to find a replacement material for their way wipers, and it's a real necessity to keep your machine in good order. And I should have done this a good 2 years ago when I rebuilt the machine, but I've just never got to it. And recently I've done a few jobs where there's been quite a bit of cast dust on the machine, so I've done my best to cover the ways, but I really want to prolong this machine's life as much as I can. So the best thing to do is going to be replace these way wipers. So I'm going to go ahead and get these guards cleaned up now, and then I can get this neoprene cut out to the profile it needs to be, and then get them back on the machine. So I'm pretty pleased with how these way wipers have come out, and I just had to cut the V at a slightly smaller V than what these guards actually are, as they aren't the correct profile for the bed. As you can see, that the top section there is way too wide, so you've just got to cut a smaller V and match it up to the bed of the machine. Obviously if you're doing a Colchester Master, then it'll be very similar, if not the same, but for any other machine out there it could be a slightly different angle on the bed or a slightly different shape, so you just have to work to your machine. So I've got these way wipers installed now, and I'm pleased to say that when I pump a bit of oil into the carriage there, it's really made a big difference on how this travels up and down the machine, keeping the oil in there to give it a nice oil film to ride on, rather than just squeezing the oil out every time it's worked back and forth. So I'll just run a little bit of oil down the outside here and just show you the way wiper's doing the job. So you can see there, just smearing the oil along, keeping all the crud on the outside of the carriage, and then when you pump the oil through the little nipples here, it retains the oil inside and keeps all the crud out. So I'm really pleased with that. Project number 4, milling a 1/4 inch keyway into a 50mm shaft. I've got 3 of these shafts to do, so let's get to it. Setting the machine stops for the length of the keyway. With the machine work now done, these shafts are ready to go out the door and move on to the next project. Project 5, milling brackets for lawn tractor front end loader. Mint. Certainly runs. With the brackets now welded together, I could test out the quick release mechanism that I am hoping to use on this lightweight front end loader. As you may notice, the rams on this are electric linear actuators to avoid having the excess hydraulic system on the machine. So with the proof of concept now figured out, I moved on to making a solid steel bucket for the front end loader, just to give a bit more strength and rigidity for moving a little bit heavier loads. With the bucket now all welded together and the wear edges welded up, fitted it to the machine and took it for a test drive. As you can see, the linear actuators are pretty slow, but they do have quite a bit of force behind them, so they can lift a decent weight without any struggle. So as long as you don't mind waiting a little while to get the job done, they are more than enough for what I need on this machine, keeping the weight down, as I haven't upgraded the front axle of this machine at all, so I don't want to overload it too much. It's just a handy little machine to have for tootling things around. Over the past few months, we've been slowly digging our way through the bankside and making some better access to the top of our back garden, where I have a small workshop. And as you can see, we've made a good impression with the first few weeks of work, getting the fence up and getting the bulk of the soil removed. We've obviously had a machine in, getting the soil away and working through a few trees that were in the way. As you can see, they're now not in the way. So we've made a big improvement on the access to the back of our property, and now we've got the joyous task of beginning building a stone retaining wall to hold all this bankside in place. So we've got a lot of stone to shift still, but I'm really pleased with how this has come on. It's been a long time in the working, but it's all coming together now.